This thing won't even start. Alright guys, I don't do this too often, but this whole idling discussion, we're gonna have to talk about it today because Dave's Auto Center put out, you know, what he did, and there's a lot of things I agree with Dave, but there are some things that I don't agree with Dave. Now, I'm in between on this topic, but this whole idling thing, in the beginning of this video, I'm gonna compare the cold start between a 5.9 Cummins, which mine in 25 degree weather, and a 6.0 Power Stroke in 25 degree weather, and why that 15 to 20 seconds thing is just absolute bullshit. That's not acceptable. Now, I feel like I have enough knowledge on this topic. I've worked with a ton of hotshot trucks over the years. I've had my own hotshot trucks over the years. I've had 3 third-gen diesels. I've had 6 fourth-gen diesels. A lot of them had emissions. Some of them might have had the emissions fall off and this and that. So let's get down the road and let's go start this 6.0 and see how that truck that has an EGR starts in this weather. Now it's cold enough this morning that mine just goes right into high idle. It is 25 degrees and unfortunately my edge box did not want to fucking start this morning, so I don't know what to tell you how long I've been idling, but it's been for at least 4 or 5 minutes. All right, so it's not like I just get in, I wait 15 seconds and I go. That is how you have spun bearings and quite another few issues. Now, I'm also not saying to let your truck sit there for a half an hour. I'm just gonna give my opinion on this matter. Yeah, I don't know, I guess we're going today without the edge because it is saying that it cannot detect the ignition on. I don't know. So I guess I can't show you my idle times, but I get in the truck. After about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how cold it is, I will drive the truck easily to get it warmed up. This usually tells me my transmission temp, it tells me my engine temp, it tells me everything. And for some reason, I am going into this today blind because that's the message we're getting. So that aside, whatever, not worried about it. We're gonna get up the road. I'm not gonna beat on Bertha, but I will drive it normally. Now, the second I get out of my place, a slight hill, obviously we need to accelerate. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna accelerate. Not crazy easy, but you know, nothing shit either. So we're still having edge CTS2 problems, so I can't tell you guys how long I've been driving. But basically my rule of thumb is if it is cold outside, generally let's just say 30 degrees or under, right? Let's go with 35 degrees. I'll start the truck and generally I'll let it run until the grid heater stops. Now, if it's warm, I'll give this thing about 30 seconds, but that's just me. It's my truck, right? I'm not gonna tell a customer to do that. But if it's warm out, like if it's anything 35 plus, a minute, sometimes 2. But as it starts getting warmer, there's times where I've fired this thing up, given it 15 seconds and literally just went. I don't recommend that, but you know, that's just me. I will give you guys a talk about the emissions truck at the end of this video, but in the meantime, generally, I fire the truck up. If it goes straight to high idle, I know that it's cold enough that I'll let it sit until the grid heater does its thing, and then anything as every 10 degrees, I'll add another minute or 2, but never more than 10 minutes of idling. Now, keep this in mind, I am the guy over the years who will literally start his truck in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping in it, and I will idle it for 3 or 4 hours without even driving it and then shut it back off just to build heat, you know what I mean? And I have never had that bite me in the ass and go through a motor. So, short haul drives, this startup and acceleration to get to work is about 20 minutes. So, in the time that I idled it plus the drive to work, about 20 minutes. I try to avoid short distances. The only reason I'm driving the truck like this today is because it is... The only reason I'm driving the truck like this weekend and today and these short distances is literally because it was snowing, and I try not to drive the Honda in the snow. I don't want it getting rusty, a rust-free car, and that's what the truck is for. So I will drive the truck short distances when it is snowing out or it's like inclement weather, you know, this and that. But most of the time I will plug the truck in. These short distances are what's going to kill your diesel truck more than anything, in my opinion. Generally, I like to be able to fire the truck up and drive it, you know, 10 hours or whatnot, or at least a couple hours. And if it is that cold out, I don't shut the truck off at all. Anytime I get to my stops, I will leave the truck running. I take my key out and I lock the doors. That way nobody can steal it. I mean, unless they, you know, locks only keep honest people honest. But that's how I deal with that. I will let the truck run all day, idle all day, whatever. Once it's up to its operating temp, I will not let it cool back down and, you know, shut it off. So that's also a secret to longevity on your diesel trucks, and specifically the engine. Now, my truck does not have the coolant going through the cooler like most trucks do, because on the Dodges, they fail a lot. So what I do, I will purposely keep my transmission unlocked up until about 50, because then it just forcefully locks. But I will keep my torque converter unlocked so that it builds heat, so that I can get the transmission temp up to temperature sooner, about 120, 130 degrees. That's fine with me. And then I'll put it back in tow haul mode, because this is a 9,900 pound truck. With fuel, with no fuel in it, it's about 9,000 pounds. So now let's skip to what a 5.9 sounds like when you start it when it's 25 degrees out, and then we're gonna skip to what a 6.0 sounds like when you start it when it's 25 degrees out. Now, 6.0s require oil pressure to start, to fire the injectors, the Huey system, all that. You tell me after you hear this thing fire up, if it even fires up, if you think that 15 to 20 seconds is enough. This thing won't even start without killing the batteries. Mind you, that truck has bad batteries and it starts on the second crank. This one attempted to fire and does not fire. So we're gonna give this another shot with a fair chance of this guy here. Charge it, 200 amp jump start. Let's see if we can get her to fire. Because I need to move this one, because this one's coming in for work anyway. You can see there's a bunch of oil leaks and coolant leaks and transmission fluid leaks. So we are actually going to go through and fix all of this stuff, fix that cowl, all that stuff. So it's all getting fixed. Now, after hearing this thing fire up, do y'all think we should just put it in drive 10 to 15 seconds in? Sorry, 15 to 20 seconds, I think Dave said. Should idle up eventually. So the 6 liter's not starting, and we have this 2017 up here on the hill, and the parts actually came in yesterday. So hopefully today is the day that I will be throwing this ABS module and hydraulic control unit in. So I have to start it, and I'm not just gonna drive it down there. I'm gonna let it warm up. It's been sitting here a minute. But in the meantime, we'll do a comparison video on this one as well. This wasn't planned, it just happened that all the parts came in on the day that I was starting all the trucks. See, that one went straight to high idle too. Now this one and the 6.0 both have VGT turbos, so they will help themselves warm up. I'm gonna let this thing idle for about, I'd like to say about 5 minutes, because it has been sitting a while. Get all that stuff cleared off, but this truck has 32,000 miles on it, so not driven a ton, but we'll come in here, turn on, geez, I gotta figure out how the fuck this works. Yeah, we'll turn those on, turn that on, and let this thing warm up. Obviously, with that much ice and snow and shit, you don't want to just get in and drive it. This says it's 27 out. My truck said 25, so we're pretty close. So you guys will have already seen this thing started. For now, I'm still fighting it. I'm going to let it on the 200 amp jump start feature for a while to get that thing up, because that one is going to be worked on, but I need to make sure it consistently starts, and I think we are going to be throwing a new set of batteries in it as well, but all that will be Tuesday. I don't have time to work on this thing till Tuesday. So at this point, you guys have seen how this one starts. You've seen how a 2017 starts, and you've seen how a 6.0 Power Stroke starts. And realistically, if you're going to tell me that you can get in this truck and just drive it after about 15-20 seconds. Now, I do know, I'm able to read between the lines, and Dave was saying specifically the emissions trucks with the DPF and this and that. So I'm going to give you my 2 cents on these emissions trucks, how you should drive them, how you should idle them, how much you should warm them up. This is my opinion. This is what I find that works and makes in my opinion, the most sense for longevity and all that. If you're going to drive an emissions truck, diesel, I don't recommend running it for your grocery getter or your daily driver or this and that. Those emissions trucks, unfortunately, they are made to work. They are made to get in them, put a load on them, drive them, highway driving, all this and that. Don't just sit there and, idle it and fucking, be on your laptop and shit. That all 100% makes sense. In my opinion, you get in an emissions truck, you start it the exact same way that you're going to start a non-emissions truck. You're going to start it up, you wait. All right, so the clip cut out. I run out of space so fast, and the camera doesn't even warn me or anything. It just shuts it off. So what I was saying is, obviously, if you're not going to delete the truck, you're not going to get rid of the grid heater. So you're going to start them the exact same way and run them, let's say, a couple minutes to up to about the 10-minute mark. Hopefully you're not one of those people that are running these things short distances. They are made specifically to work. So you're going to get an emissions truck. You're going to start it 5 to 10 minutes after it's idle and you have enough heat in it to move it. Now you're going to drive it. Hopefully you have a load on it. You're not going a short distance and then shutting it off and then turning it back on, or even idling it. It's one of those, like, they can idle a little bit. That's not a problem. If you're going to sit there and idle for like 10-15 minutes in a day, that's not really a problem, as long as you're going to be getting on the highway or putting a load on it and actually driving it like it's meant to drive. That's the difference. If you're going to sit here and just idle them all day, that's where the problem is. These older diesels, you can idle them all fucking day. The trucks, mainly, I don't even worry about the DPF. I think the EGR is personally the biggest problem on these trucks, where if you're idling them constantly or just driving them short distances and this and that, you're going to clog them up, you're going to choke them up. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. Drive these trucks how they were intended to be driven. If you want a newer diesel truck and you are not going to actually drive it and put a load on it, and you're just going to do short distances, you better have deep pockets. That's all I'm saying. Or you better delete it. And to do that, a lot of times it takes deep pockets. If you are just going to buy a diesel truck to just drive it around, get on your laptop and do that, get an older one. This truck has 347 on it. This truck has 145. Okay, this is an EGR truck. This is a pre-emissions truck. Dodge got away with that because of the inline six, whereas the Power Strokes, they were V8s, so they got hit with the emission stuff a lot earlier because most of them were V8s, so they were like, yeah, it's a bigger engine, this and that. All bullshit with the EPA. It is definitely an overstep. Also, if you are going to warm them up, make sure you're turning your exhaust brake on if you have one, because it will help to start these trucks up. It will help them run a lot better. Keep that in mind. So that's my 2 cents on all of this. If I missed anything, let me know. But don't be afraid to idle your pre-emissions trucks, guys. Don't be afraid to warm them up for, 5-10 minutes. Don't be afraid of that. If you're going to idle them out in the field all day, at your job site or whatever, that's not a problem. These trucks do not give a shit about idling. The DPF trucks, they do. So take what Dave said with a grain of salt. I like a lot of the stuff Dave says. I get that he has a bigger, huge business. Mistakes are going to be made. I do feel like a lot of the stuff that he's putting out now might just be for the views. I'm not 100% sure, but take what he says with a grain of salt. I'm not on Dave's side, but I'm also not. You really gotta look past certain things. You gotta say, hey, this person puts out good information here, but this information's not. You need to learn to read between the lines, in my opinion. I definitely am not one to come on here and hate on somebody else's business for what they do, because that's just not who I am. I hope everybody succeeds. I don't be one of the, I'm not a Dave hater, but at the same time, you got to learn to look past a lot of that stuff. These trucks will run for a long time if you take care of them. Even if you're idling them, this and that, just realistically, everybody should just delete their diesel truck, because fuck the EPA and all of their overreach and this and that. Reliability should come first over all of this excess bullshit. This is America, after all. If I want to drive a diesel truck for no reason and run my laptop, I should be able to do it, because this is America. If I want to go and drive a fucking smart car, I should be able to do it. You don't have to have a reason to drive something other than you like it. So that's kind of where I stand on it. This is America. We all have that right to do it. Just don't cost yourself money down the road is all I'm saying. So to show you guys I'm not crazy, here's the runtime. It works, but I guess it was just that cold this morning that for some reason it couldn't detect ignition. I even shut it off at a red light and turned it back on, and it still didn't do nothing. So I came out here, it's 2 o'clock now, and it's working. There you go. I have the runtime gauge, and if I come over to the other side too, not only do I have a runtime gauge, but I also have the trip odometer as well. I like seeing what my, how much I run, how much I've been driving in a day compared to my idle time.